Hello and welcome. I'm Aleki, and today we're going to be checking out Space Haven, which is essentially a colony sim set in space. To give you the Steam description of it, let's take a look at that. It says, embark on a space voyage with your ragtag crew of civilians in search of a new home. Build spaceships tile by tile, create optimal gas conditions, manage the needs and moods of their crew, encounter other spacefaring groups, and explore the universe in this spaceship colony simulation. So the game has two modes. The main one where you build a spaceship, and that's the initial mode that was built, and a newer one that was added some months ago, where instead of building a spaceship and traveling from system to system, you build a space station and instead tackle various visitors and dangers that come your way. And that's the mode that I'm going to be playing today. But before we get into that, I want to show you something in the options. Under the audio tab, there's this menu music selection. For copyright reasons, for Twitch and YouTube, I'm using the instrumental option. But for yourself, I highly recommend checking out this To the Moon option, because it is one of the most beautiful pieces of music I have seen in a video game as far as menu music, particularly as far as indie games. This is just an amazing piece, and in my own playthroughs I loved listening to that, so make sure you check that out. Okay, let's jump into starting a game. So when you start, you do have a tutorial, and I do highly recommend that you do that if you've never played before. The normal mode, where you build and crew a spaceship and travel from system to system, and then the station mode that we're going to be playing today. For the station mode, you get the option to start on an asteroid or start in space. Meaning, with starting in space, you get a bunch of supplies and a shuttle, and you can place things yourself, whereas starting on an asteroid, you get a starter base that's already placed on an asteroid. I want to build mine from scratch, so that's what we're gonna do. The game name is simply the save file name that is gonna be, so let's call it Space Station. Then there is a difficulty selection. We're gonna go to medium for this session, and you get to customize your difficulty in a lot of detail if you want. So medium and so on are presets, but you can choose to edit all these aspects of what you start with: the resources you start with, weapons you start with, what technology is researched, how many colonists, and a lot more options that you see here. And if you want to play the same start that I'm getting, up here is the seed that determines the randomization. So it is 135, 158, 928, 6. Then you get into the colonist creation or generation. So on this difficulty and game mode, I'm going to be starting with 4 colonists. And for each one, you have some appearance customization, and then they have attributes and skills, along with an occupation and traits. As far as I can tell, the occupation does not do anything. If I'm wrong on that, let me know. But it didn't seem to affect any of their stats or anything. The traits give you some kind of bonus or penalty, immunities to various conditions. Then attributes determine a lot of the general qualities of your colonist. So, for example, bravery affects how likely they are to want to surrender. This one has a bravery of 4, which is fairly high, and his desire to surrender is minus 20% because of bravery. If you mouse over these values, you can see exactly what contributes to those totals. Then the skills can be improved. The lit bars represent the skill the colonist has right now, and the shadowy unlit bars represent how high that colonist can get in the skill. So through usage or training, they can progress up to this limit. And these affect things they're doing. So mining determines how good they are mining, construction, how good they are at construction, and so forth. The ones with yellow names are used in, let's say, in the person portion of their activity. So when they're walking around and constructing, doing industry, and so on. The red ones are used in spaceship operation. So for example, if we were playing the spaceship mode, navigation would determine using hyperdrives and things like that. For the station, I'm not sure if navigation ever comes into play, but definitely gunner, shielding on operations, as well as piloting will be used, because these determine how good they are at controlling guns, recharging shields, performing scans, and piloting the little fighters that you can get. You can also save and load preset colonists. In the interest of keeping this expedient, I have pre-generated 4 colonists that we're going to be using. You can also use the advanced edit mode by clicking this cogwheel to customize their attributes, their traits, their skills, as well as the maximum potential skill they get. These were all customized, though I tried to make them good but not completely min-max them, so I set myself the rule that I would not give them a starting skill above 5 in anything. Now, as you can see, they are specialized and have good capability in a few fields that they'll be focusing on. So let's meet them. We have Alina, whose trait is to be hard worker, meaning that she gets a bonus to carry capacity and increased working speed. And she will be our doctor and researcher with a 5 in each of those. She's got good skill in weapons at a 4, as well as being our operations officer, meaning she's going to be in charge of hailing other spaceships and performing scans once we get that technology. She's also got some skills in other things, like some industry, a bit of construction and mining. That's because I had some extra skill points. Felix is going to be our builder and our farmer. So he's got a 5 in construction and botany. He's also really good with weapons at a 5, the best out of our starting crew. And he has a 5 in gunnery, so he will be our gunnery officer once we have a weapons console. Freya here is going to be our manufacturer. Oh, and I forgot to look, Felix has the confident trait, so he's got a mood of 5 and is 10% less likely to want to surrender. Freya will be our industrial focused colonist. She starts with an industry of 5, so she'll be doing a lot of manufacturing. And she's also got a 4 in construction and weapons, as well as shielding, so she will be the shield officer. And her trait is Spacefarer, which makes her immune to wearing a spacesuit, or getting fatigued from wearing a spacesuit. So that will come in handy in terms of her going into the industrial area, and you'll see how that works once we end up building one. And then we have Grant. Grant is going to be our miner. He's got a 5 in mining, as well as some skills in construction, industry, a 4 in weapons. And he's also skilled to 5 in piloting, meaning he's going to be our fighter pod pilot. Of course, hopefully we are going to get other colonists added, so we'll see what skills those bring, and maybe the roles will change. You'll notice also that I put a 1 in front of their names, and that's just something I personally like to do in this kind of game, because the game sorts colonists alphabetically, so by putting a 1 in their first name, it lets me group them up, and we're gonna have multiple shifts. So one just denotes that I'm intending for them to work together on one shift. Oh, and Grant is a minimalist, so he's got a +1 to carry capacity, but a penalty of 10% to learning. But he also doesn't care if he sleeps on the floor or eats without a table. So let's get started. And this is the supplies that we start with. We have a bunch of cargo containers that are basically a base in a can along with some extra supplies. And we have a shuttle with our 4 colonists. So, welcome to Station Game Mode. Greetings, Governor. You have arrived to a new home sector with your shuttle and containers. Deploy your containers starting from the base starter. You can deploy the barracks container adjacent to the base starter to create a unified hull. We won't be doing that, and I'll explain why in a bit. Move on to build an asteroid pod hangar for a builder pod and an asteroid cargo port to dock your cargo containers with supplementary resources. Take your time and good luck. Okay, so this is the asteroid that we will be calling home. And these dotted areas are ones that we will need to send colonists on foot to approach this beacon in order to claim access to. Right now we cannot build things there. And some of them have dangers. For example, this one is guarded by some alien bugs that we're gonna need to deal with before we can go to the beacon and claim it. This other one is guarded by a couple of robots, which likewise are hostile. Now, the starting packages, you do need to place them on flatland, and in my experience, we got a really good asteroid here. A lot of them are a lot more broken up with these rocks that disallow building. But here we have a nice flat open space. Big one here and a smaller one over here. Once you build things, when you are building later on, you can expand over empty space. Initially, you cannot place these base in a can modules on empty space, but we'll be able to expand outward like that. Essentially, there's a square-like building area that we'll be able to use other than the rocks that are blocking building. And as far as I know, those you cannot remove. So let's see what we get. We have a base starter, which we can click deploy and choose a spot to place it, Q&E to rotate it. And this contains a very basic storage and a tool station. I'm not gonna place it just yet. We have a solar array, which will generate some weak initial power for us. This one is essentially outdoors. We have a barracks container, which places this dorm with 4 sleeping spots, or actually 6 sleeping spots, 1 spot at the table for eating, as well as a toilet and an oxygen generator. And we have also a cargo shuttle that gives us some starting supplies. A few weapons, some food, water, ice, and other things that we're gonna need to get us going. One thing I like to do before I place these is take a look in the build menu, because I know I'm gonna need to build a few things that take up space and require a solid foundation. So we're gonna need one of these platforms, and that's where our shuttle will land and unload things. So the shuttles will be used to move cargo to and from wrecks that we explore, when doing trades, and all that. Then we're gonna need a hangar for the shuttle. That's where the shuttle actually parks and is loaded for missions. We're gonna need a few pod hangars. These pods are used to mine, to build, and for fighter pods that can be used to shoot down enemies. So those are in addition to placing these modules. Let's preview things a little bit. If I grab the base starter, see if I can place it here in between these two outcroppings of rock. Okay, I could put that there. I'm gonna accept that. And then plan out building for the shell platform over here. I'm gonna put the shell hangar next to it. And then plan out 3 pods like that. I'm going to click on these and pause them because I don't want the colonists to start building these just yet. Other than the platform, I will let that one build. But let's place the other base in a can modules. We do have these solar array, and you'll see where I placed orders for construction. Even though I can't see them right now, they are blocking me from placing things. So I'm going to use that as a guide to place my solar array. And these will have to be connected to each other in order to pass power. So I do want it to be near the other modules that we'll be building. And then we have the barracks. The guide does recommend that you place these adjacent to each other, which would connect them into a single larger hull. I don't like doing that because the colonists don't like being near various industrial machinery and other consoles and whatnot when they are sleeping. So I want to actually separate them from now, and eventually I will be building hull to connect them, because I want to keep the bedrooms away from the work areas. So I'm gonna place it. Let's go like that. Okay, it's 1, 2, too close to the rock. So there we have it. Now, if I unpause, these 3 will move over there and unpack themselves. Meanwhile, I'm gonna grab the shell with the colonists. I'm gonna draft it, which lets me directly control it. And I'm gonna tell it that I want it to dock with the asteroid over here. It will create a temporary docking platform and dock with it, even though there is no airlock or anything. That will allow the colonists to get out of the shell onto the surface of the asteroid. So the next step of the tutorial, deploy your containers. This is what we already did, but I'll read the instructions. Some of your containers are deployable. You can select them and deploy them on the asteroid. To deploy, select the container and click the deploy button from the lower left. Then choose a location with enough free space at the asteroid's surface. Start by deploying your base container. It contains basic life support and the storage. Deploy the barracks container. You can deploy it adjacent to base starter for a unified hull. Deploy any other deployable containers you have. So we did have the solar panel one. You can leave the cargo shell with resources behind in the beginning. Okay, and we already did that. So on to the next step. Build an asteroid shell hangar. Build an asteroid shell hangar. The shell hangar acts as a base for one shell. It can construct new shells if not already reserved for an existing shell. Shells are needed for transporting goods between ships and for transporting crew members to explore derelict ships. Shells operate autonomously. Multiple shells will speed up transport. This is the one I already placed here. And so I'm going to unpause that building. Yep, the shell has docked with this platform it spawned. I'm going to click to take the colonist out of the craft. And then I'm gonna undraft them, and I'm gonna undraft the shuttle. This lets them get to work. So they're gonna start autonomously doing work depending on what tasks are needed and based on their schedule and priorities. So let's take a look at the priorities. The double arrow up is the highest priority. An X means they won't do it. Arrows down are lower priority. So it goes double arrow up, arrow up. The line, arrow down, double arrow down. Oh, or not double arrow down, but this arrow with an exclamation mark, which is special in the sense that if you set it to that, they will not do a job if there is anybody else who's qualified to do it. They will only do it as a last resort. And then the X, meaning they will not do it. Some of these are automatically set quite well. For example, we do want Alina to have a high priority in operations, but others are terrible by default. For example, Grant, who is our strongest miner, is set to not mine, that he's not allowed to ever mine. So let's fix these up. I want them to only do navigation if nobody better qualified is available. Aside from Grant, he's gonna do navigation because he does have room to improve beyond one skill point. Although, like I said, I'm not sure that navigation comes into play in station mode. I've never played this mode that far, so we'll find out. As far as gunnery, we'll reduce that, but because gunnery is important, we'll let everybody do it to some degree. And then Felix will have the highest priority. Shield operation, again, we're gonna allow everybody to do it to some degree, but we want Freya to be prioritizing that job. Operations, that's Alina's job, and everybody else will be doing it to some degree, because especially at this point where we don't have a scanner, it does help to let any of them just go and hail when we are trying to communicate. Medical, we want Alina to prioritize that. She's our doctor. And then the other ones, we will let them do it. Felix, because he cannot get any better in medical, I'm gonna set him so that he only does if nobody else is available. So let's say if the other three get knocked unconscious, then Felix is gonna do medicine, but otherwise he's gonna avoid doing it. And Freya and Grant, I will let them do it, but deprioritize doing it compared to Alina's priority. Botany, only Felix is able to do it, so we want a high priority on him. Construction, again, high priority on Felix, and pretty good priority on Freya. The other two will do it if they're not busy with something more pressing. Maintenance, that kind of goes with construction, so we're gonna set it like that. Although maintenance is important that it's done early, so I will set all three of these to be on high priority, and then Alina will be on a medium. Mining, I really don't want them to do it, but if they are not occupied with something more pressing, I'll let them do it. And of course, Grant is going to be high priority on mining. Industry, Freya has a high priority. And I do want the other ones to also do it with a decently high priority. Research will be prioritized by Alina, but in the beginning, I want her to prioritize logistics over research. So actually, let's reduce industry one step for her. These also go left to right. So when you have a double arrow to the left of another one, essentially Alina will do an operations job if that is required at any given time. If not, she will do a medical job. If not, she will do logistics. Then it moves on to the beginning again. And she will do research because that's the next highest arrow. Then it jumps back to the beginning and she will do gunnery, shielding, construction, maintenance, or industry. Then it jumps back to the beginning She will do mining, because that's an arrow down. And at the very, very last, if nobody else is available to do it, she will do a navigation job if nothing else was available for her to do. So by setting it like this, she will do logistics before research. And early on, we're going to be pressed for logistics. Logistics is them moving items from place to place. So supplying manufacturing stations, supplying the oxygen generators. Actually, I don't know if oxygen generators consume anything, but you get the idea. She was going to be running around supplying things. Then for Freya, let's set that also as a higher priority, but that won't come before maintenance or industry for her. So she'll work on industry, but if there's no industry job, she'll do logistics. Likewise for Felix, high priority on logistics so that it comes just after his core jobs. I'm gonna reduce his research because I don't want him to do research over logistics. And Grant as well, we're gonna increase logistics so that he does logistics before he does industry. Okay, then we have the scheduling. This sets what they are gonna do at what time of the day. And even though we're an asteroid, there is no real day-night cycle. They do have essentially a virtual 24-hour clock. So right now, the blue blocks, they are in work schedule. We also have a secondary study, meaning if they don't have any work to do, they will be studying to improve their skills. Of course, we don't have any studying facilities right now, so none of that would happen. The yellow blocks are free time, meaning the time that they use to use the restroom, eat, socialize, entertain themselves. And red is sleep time, when they will go to bed. Right now, they all have independent schedules, so I could make a change just for Alina, and that would affect only her. But I like using group schedules. And over here, the game starts us out with a pre-made group schedule, but that's not applied to any of them. By clicking on this calendar, we can put them on a group schedule. And the arrows then let you select if you had more than one. Right now I only have one group schedule. So we're going to put all 4 of them on schedule 1. This essentially lets you manage your colonists to work in groups. Essentially having shifts. And then there's some other stuff that we will look at later. So let's unpause and let them get to work. It does look like the oxygen generator does use water. So yeah, they are doing various logistics jobs, supplying these, and bringing materials to the construction that we allow them to start on. Freya is carrying a jug of water to this other oxygen generator. The time controls you can change up here in the top right, and also control them with F1 through F4 on your keyboard. So, speed things up. And they build a platform, and now they'll build the shuttle dock. The shuttle has landed on this platform, now that it has a proper spot. Since we have a hangar, we can claim the shuttle. So it says claim a shuttle for your shuttle hangar. Select the shuttle with the home hangar in your sector. Click the claim button and then select a free... Oh, without a home hangar in your sector. Click the claim button and then select a free shuttle hangar. So I'm gonna click on the shuttle. When you have 2 things like this, you collect multiple times to cycle through them. So right now we have the platform selected. Click again, select the shuttle. So click claim and click on the hangar and accept. So now this hangar is the home for the shuttle. You'll notice that there is a no power warning here because this is not connected to anything that gives power. The base module has this backup power. So right now we're on backup power, we're draining from that to power the oxygen generator. It's also touching this cargo platform, so that is connected. But the solar panel is only connected to the sleeping quarters, and the hangar is not connected to anything. So to get that connected, I'm actually gonna unpause this pod hangar, and in the build menu, I'm gonna grab some power conduit and place a piece between the solar array and the pod hangar, a piece between the pod hangar and the shuttle hangar, and a piece between the shuttle hangar and the platform, which also connects it to our starter base. Build an asteroid cargo port. Designed for transferring bulk cargo between ships and stations, functions as a docking station for cargo shuttles. So not this one, but rather this cargo shuttle over here, where we have extra supplies. This version of the cargo port is intended to be built on an asteroid basis. So yes, many of the facilities have a ship version and an asteroid version. The ship version has to be built inside a hull. It can still be built on a base on an asteroid, but we would need to have enough space inside to place those. But you can also place many of these things outside when you are on an asteroid. So over here we have under storage, cargo port asteroid, as opposed to the cargo port that is installed on a ship typically. And this is where that cargo shuttle can land to get unloaded. And this is where I did not think my planning through because I forgot about this. So this will be non-ideal because we don't want to be this quite close, since they're gonna have to move cargo from the cargo port to the internal storage. So let's see if this is okay. Yeah, they can go around like that. It's not a convenient path, but we'll make do for the moment. Okay, and they built the cargo port. Supplement resources from your cargo shuttle. You can utilize this cargo shuttle in two ways. If you have a free cargo port, select the cargo shuttle and dock to a free cargo port using the dock button at the lower left. When the cargo shuttle has docked, you can select it and use the unload command at the lower left. If you do not have a free cargo port, select the cargo shuttle and click transfer resources from the lower left. Well, we do have a cargo port. I'm gonna grab the cargo shuttle. And our base got hit by asteroids. So everything else gets put on hold while we repair our bedroom. And I think that kind of wreckage we need a builder pod. So I'm gonna go off of tutorial, grab the pod hangar, and I'm gonna quickly build a builder pod. Yeah, we lost a bunch of hull there and the oxygen generator. They do automatically rebuild things, but the wall, we need to manually build it. So I'm gonna select build hull and select that area so that they rebuild. Obviously, while there's a big gaping hole, in fact there's several on this side too, the oxygen generator is just wasting oxygen. So one of them got into the pod and is building out the walls where they got broken. We need one more. Oh, I forgot to click it. Okay, get that corner done as well. Okay, and now this bedroom is airtight again. This is where I'm backup power. Where are we missing a connection? Maybe the platform does not act as a connection between those. Oh no, there is a gap. Oh, I did connect there. Oh, I think what's happening is that the demand is higher than our solar panel is generating. So it's kind of pulsing on and off. Okay, back to the tutorial so we can get to the point where we build a more reliable power generator. Build an asteroid pod hangar. We already did that. The pod hangar acts as a base for one mining pod, builder pod, or starfighter. You can construct new pods as long as it is not reserved for an existing pod. So we already built a builder in here. Builder pods are used to build hull sections, while mining pods are used to mine raw resources from asteroids. Starfighters defend your fleet against asteroids, rogue bots, enemy starfighters, and can attack enemy spaceships and stations. Pods and starfighters require a crew member to operate. So we already did that. Now we need to build a system core. A system core gives something called system points, which are used by things like turrets and other, let's say, more important equipment. And that serves as a upper limit on how many things you can build on your ship or starbase as far as the more powerful equipment. So for example, the point defense turret requires one system point. These are not consumed. They are basically just counting towards a cap. If you were to build a turret and then destroy the turret, you'd get the headroom of that one one system point back. And the system cores determine how many points you have. So the X1 gives you 12, the X2 gives you 24, the X3 gives you 48. So essentially, if I built an X3, I could theoretically build 48 point defense turrets. Of course, there's other things that use up this capacity as well, so we're not going to build just point defense turrets. Now, there is a limit to how many system cores you can build as well. If you see over here, they require something called a core point. So they require 1, 2, and 4 respectively. And up here we have 9 core points available. So at most we can build 2 X3 system cores and 1 X1 system core. That would bring us to just about 108, if I'm mathing that correctly. But for now, we just need one of them. These do need to go inside the base, they cannot be put outside. So before we can do any of that, we need to expand our base. And that happens with the builder pod, the same way as I fixed the walls in the asteroid impact emergency that we had. So let's expand this. And in order to build the hulls like this, we are expanding. Those won't connect because of the wall thickness. So in order to build walls like this, we are expanding hull blocks. We only have a limited number of them. There's more on the cargo shell that we haven't unloaded yet, but I do need to be mindful how much we are building out at first, because we're going to need to acquire more of those before we can truly build out a large space station. So while they're working on that, I am going to grab that cargo shell and tell it to dock the cargo port so we can unload our extra supplies. And Felix is doing his construction job, building out the base hull. All the other ones are just hanging around because there's no work for them to do. But we're about to get some because we're going to start unloading the cargo shell. So this one, you select what you want to unload, select the amount, and click unload. So that sent out of the shuttle all the hull blocks. And now our people are gonna realize that there's a logistic job to be done, so they're gonna go pick those up and they're gonna bring them to this storage inside the base. There's quite a few things in this cargo shuttle, so I'm gonna try to prioritize what I'm unloading in order to not overwhelm the output and actually get the important things that I need out. Like guns, because we should have guns in case we do find some place to explore that might be infested. And they restock the pods, so Felix can do more building. Okay, they grabbed everything that came out of that, so let's unload some more. And their shift ended, so now they are on recreation time. They're gonna grab some food, eat. If you played RimWorld, over here they also hate eating without a table. No, I guess she did use the table, so technically it was not eating without the table, even though she stood next to the table. And then they're gonna be going to bed. As with most games of this type, there are overlays that let you monitor various things. So for example, there's a CO2 overlay. Lets us see the buildup of carbon dioxide in various areas of the base. So over here, where they spend some time sleeping, the CO2 is getting higher. It's up to 27. Over here in the main base, it's only about 19. And that's something that I'm gonna, again, do a little bit ahead of the tutorial. I'm gonna go under Objects, Life Support, and I'm gonna build a gas scrubber over here in the bedroom, because I want to get ahead of that buildup of CO2. The gas scrubber is gonna filter those out. Okay, and now they are back to work day 2. I'm gonna let that Felix took a break from building the base walls to build that carbon scrubber. Now we do have our first visitor, this NPC ship, which is neutral to us. And NPC ships can have missions, they can trade, you can also talk to them. We don't have the ability to talk yet because we don't have a operations console, which is used for hailing ships, but we can trade with them. When trading, our items are shown on the left, their items are shown on the right. We can put things in the trade, and we have to match the value that we're giving or receiving, potentially using credits to balance that out. They are not paying a premium for any of the items we have to offer them. And they do have a discount on energy rods, but we have no credits, and also we don't have an immediate need for energy rods. This price tag indicates that they are selling energy rods at a discount compared to the average price. So nothing that we can offer or that they're offering that we want to trade with them. So let's continue building our base. And it informs that this new ship will arrive next turn. The turn is this mark on at some point during the day, so as the day progresses, the arrival and departure turns that control things that enter our system happen when the day reaches this line on the timer bar. And if you're enjoying this kind of content, make sure to hit the subscribe button so that future installments of this adventure end up on your feed. And that ship that we looked at the trade with has left the system. They don't stay very long. Or I guess it depends on what they're doing. If they start engaging in trade or missions, then they will stick around as long as they need to, but otherwise they're not. So we have a new visitor, this MFS Rage Pack. Let's see what they have to trade. Again, nothing that we're offering them, they are giving us a good price on. This circle with Europe indicates that they're selling this at an expensive price, so they're overcharging us for it if we were to buy Energium or Hyperium from them. And they're selling water at a discount. So again, nothing that we want to trade. I'm hoping we get some people who are gonna give us a premium for some of the items we have to offer. Okay, now that we have more of a hull, let's get that system core belt. And I'm gonna be greedy and go straight up to an X3 system core. Actually, I was hoping to place it here, but it does not fit because it does need this line of empty blocks. That's a walkway used to access it. So let's see. Over here, we'll put a generator. I'm planning on that. And here, we'll make some extra hull to put the system core. Let's unload more things. And now that we got the bulk of things out, I'm just going to select all and unload all. This cargo storage can hold 250 items, so there's room for everything. Okay, and that alcove where I'm planning to put the system core is built, so let's squeeze the system core in there. But before that, it's evening again. They're gonna eat and they're gonna sleep. And we have a new ship, the Jelly Baby. Okay, so they are paying a premium for nuts, fruits, and medical supplies. And they are selling at a discount mild alcohol, artificial meat, IV fluid. So this is a bit of a risky move because we do need this food for our own people too. But I'm gonna take a chance and sell some of it because we're getting a premium. And hope that we'll find other ships that will sell us things back at a discount. And the value that we're trading away, I'm gonna buy some artificial meat. And I'm gonna buy some mild alcohol. I think that will help the colonists happy. And some IV fluid, which is gonna be handy once we get some medical beds. I don't think we start with any of that. So, let's see. Okay, we'll get slightly less meat so we can get more IV fluid. And 42 coins in trade as well. So now there is a trade pending, meaning we need to load our side of the trade into the shuttle, ship it over to their ship, and they will load their side of the trade after and unload it for us. None of that's gonna happen until our people wake up in the morning, but the fact that we have a pending trade is gonna keep the ship from leaving, so they will stay around until the trade is completed. And a derelict arrived. So derelicts are these wrecked spaceships, generally infested by some sort of enemies, that we can go explore, and once they're fully explored, we can loot them and even scrap them. However, right now we don't have a source of power. We're still running on backup power. Actually, we do have the solar panel, but as you've seen, that's a bit iffy in terms of how reliable it is. So I'm not gonna jump onto the derelict just yet. Plus, we need to deal with that tray that we have. Not that they're going to work. They're grabbing things, loading them up. Yeah, they're putting them on this cargo platform. And then the shuttle is gonna go, grab everything, fly over to the NPC ship, give them the stuff, and they send their side of the trade over here, where it's unloading the beer and IV fluids and artificial meat that we bought. Okay, now it wants me to build an Energium power generator. The beating heart of your ship transforms Energium into power to supply other facilities. Low capacity power is integrated and provided from the hull, while high capacity power is distributed from power nodes. Use power nodes to distribute high capacity power to advanced facilities. Oh, and over here there is a warning that this thing is being damaged by low temperature. In this area of the base there is this wall thermal regulator that is keeping the temperature just right, not too hot, not too cold. But as we expanded the hull, I did not add another one of those. So before I do the generator, I'm gonna go to life support, grab a wall thermal regulator, and build it on the wall there. And I'm gonna say this is a high priority because I don't want our system core to break. And I'm also gonna order building the Energium power generator. And I miscalculated. I thought this was a 3x2. It is instead a 4x2. I had wanted to shove it in there. Let's expand the hull one more row and we're going to move the system core. And the thermal regulator is built, so it's going to start warming this up. Now, on this difficulty, you can move things. They will be broken down into parts and installed in the new location that you send them to. I believe on the brutal difficulty, you do not get back all the materials. So you have to be a lot more mindful of where you place things or what you build, because you can't just get the materials back. You get just scrap that you have to reprocess. Okay, so the system core is moved and we can go on and build this power generator. But all that, and maybe even our first assault on a derelict ship, will be in the next episode. For now, thank you very much for watching, and hope to see you next time.